Greetings, and welcome. You've found Six Path Weeb, a channel built for those who don't just watch anime, but live inside the lore. Today, we're diving into something that has been living in my head rent-free, and I think once you hear it, it'll take up permanent residence in yours too. Our fanfic topic. What if the Medusa bloodline reawakened in Naruko? Think about that for a second. The stone gaze. The serpentine power. The ancient, cursed lineage, dormant for centuries, suddenly stirring to life inside a girl who already carries the weight of the nine tails. What does that do to her identity? Her relationships? Her place in the shinobi world? We're about to find out. Before we begin, a quick note, the anime footage featured in this video belongs to its respective creators and copyright holders. This channel exists purely for entertainment, discussion, and the kind of creative exploration that keeps the community alive. No ownership is claimed. Alright. No more waiting. Let's build this world together. Naruko of Kuo Academy. A bright-eyed girl with fiery red hair let out a long, sleepy yawn from beneath the cozy quilts of her bed. She stretched her arms wide and blinked open her cerulean blue eyes, which sparkled like the clearest summer sky. Across her cheeks sat 6 small birthmarks arranged in pairs, giving her a cheerful, fox-like appearance that many people found charming and memorable. Naruko Uzumaki sat up slowly, running her fingers through her long red locks. She was a third-year student at Kuo Academy, 17 years old and full of quiet energy. On her wrist was a delicate tattoo of 2 koi fish swimming in a gentle circle, a gift she had chosen to remind herself that even in difficult currents, one could always keep moving forward. From downstairs came the warm and welcoming voice of her mother. "Naruko. Breakfast is ready, sweetheart." Naruko smiled and called back cheerfully. "Coming, Ka-chan." She dressed quickly in her school uniform, choosing to leave her blazer on the hook by the door and instead pulling on a clean white dress shirt, a neat orange ribbon tie, and dark slacks. She slipped on her favorite canvas shoes and bounded downstairs, where the kitchen smelled of warm rice and miso soup. Her mother, Kushina Uzumaki, stood by the stove with a bright smile. Kushina had long red hair that swept down her back, fair skin, and gentle violet eyes that always seemed to hold a story worth telling. "Good morning, Naruko. Ready for the day?" she asked warmly. "Absolutely." Naruko replied, settling into her chair with a grin that matched her mother's perfectly. After finishing every last drop of her breakfast, Naruko grabbed her school bag and her riding helmet, which was shaped cheerfully like a wide-mouthed fish and always made her smile when she put it on. She pulled on her leather gloves and her favorite jacket, a black one with a bold red emblem sewn carefully onto the back. "See you later, Ka-chan," she called, heading out to her motorcycle in the driveway. She had earned her riding license at 16, and her cousin Nagato had surprised her with the motorcycle as a celebration gift. Riding it always made her feel like the breeze itself, free and unhurried, with the whole road stretching out like a promise ahead of her. Naruko arrived at Kuo Academy and parked neatly in the lot, removing her helmet and shaking out her red hair. She walked toward the school entrance with calm, steady steps, her eyes quietly taking in everything around her. Near the gate, she passed a bespectacled young woman with short black hair and thoughtful violet eyes. This was Sona, one of the senior student council members, well known for her serious dedication to keeping order around campus. Sona noticed Naruko and gave a polite nod. "Good morning. I hope you will consider being a positive example for the younger students today, Uzumaki." Naruko tilted her head and smiled pleasantly. "I always try my best, Sona-senpai. I am heading to class right now, actually." Sona watched the red-haired girl walk away thoughtfully. There was something quietly remarkable about Naruko Uzumaki, something that was difficult to put into words, though Sona suspected it had everything to do with how genuinely she cared about the world around her. A moment later, Naruko turned a corner and nearly bumped into Sarah, a classmate with long red hair, spiky fringe, and kind violet eyes. Sarah stepped back with a soft gasp, a pink blush rising to her cheeks. "Oh. I am so sorry, Naruko-san. I was not watching where I was going." Naruko laughed softly and waved her hand. "No need to apologize at all. I was not watching either. Are you heading to class? We can walk together." Sarah beamed and fell into step beside her, and the two girls chatted pleasantly all the way to the classroom door. The school day passed slowly for Naruko. She sat at her desk, chin resting lightly on her hand, watching the clock with patient eyes. Lessons were rarely challenging enough to hold her full attention for long. Naruko had been studying independently for years, particularly in the field of psychology, the science of understanding the human mind and helping people work through their feelings. She had begun reading about it seriously at age 14, driven by a simple and sincere wish to be useful to those around her. When the final bell rang, she was the first to feel the relief of fresh air as she stepped outside. Her teacher had spoken for quite a while after class ended, and Naruko had waited politely before slipping away. She was walking toward the parking lot when she noticed someone on the path ahead. A small white-haired girl was crouched on the ground, carefully collecting the contents of a box that had tumbled from her arms. Her name was Koneko Tojo, a second-year student known for her quiet, composed manner. Naruko walked over without hesitation and knelt down beside her. "Tojo-san, let me help you with that." Koneko looked up with her steady golden eyes and said nothing for a moment, watching Naruko gather the items and set them gently back in the box. "Thank you," Koneko said at last, in her usual soft, even voice. "Of course." Naruko handed the box back and stood up. "Are you all right? That looked like quite a tumble." "I am fine," Koneko replied. She studied Naruko for a brief moment, then added, "Your hands are very smooth." Naruko laughed lightly. "Cocoa butter lotion. My mother swears by it." There was a small pause, comfortable and unhurried. "I am Naruko Uzumaki, third year," said Naruko warmly. "It is nice to properly meet you, Tojo-san." "Koneko Tojo. Second year." She glanced down at the box in her hands, then back up. "Thank you for stopping." Naruko smiled and put on her helmet. "Any time at all. And if you ever want someone to talk to, I am a good listener. No pressure, of course." She started her motorcycle and began to pull away. As she did, she called back cheerfully over her shoulder, "Just remember, it is all right to let people in sometimes." Koneko stood still on the path, blinking once. Then, very quietly, she looked at the spot where Naruko had been and thought that she might, one day, take her up on that offer. After leaving school, Naruko did not go straight home. Instead, she rode her motorcycle to a quieter part of town, a neighborhood where many people were going through very hard times. She had been coming here for 2 years, spending her afternoons listening, encouraging, and helping connect people with the support and resources they needed. The residents of the area had come to know her well, and many of them simply called her their little ray of sunshine. She parked near a bench where a woman named Suzumabachi was sitting, looking a great deal more settled than she had in previous weeks. "Suzumabachi-san. You look well today," Naruko said brightly, sitting down beside her. The woman smiled, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. "I really do feel better, Naruko-chan. The breathing exercises you taught me have been helping. I have been using them every morning." "I am so glad," said Naruko, folding her hands in her lap. "And how has your week been otherwise? Anything on your mind?" The woman nodded slowly and began to speak, and Naruko listened with complete attention, her expression open and kind, never rushing, never judging, simply present. This was what she did best. As the afternoon light began to soften into gold, Naruko noticed a young boy sitting alone on a low wall nearby. He looked to be about 11 years old, with dark reddish-black hair and his knees pulled close to his chest. He was staring at the ground with an expression far too heavy for someone so young. Naruko excused herself gently and walked over to him, sitting down on the wall a little ways away so as not to crowd him. "Hello there," she said quietly. "Mind if I sit here for a bit?" The boy said nothing, but he did not move away. "My name is Naruko," she continued gently. "I come here pretty often. I have not seen you before. Are you new to the area?" After a long pause, the boy muttered, "I ran away." Naruko nodded slowly and did not press him. "That must have taken a lot of courage," she said simply. The boy finally looked up at her, his eyes red around the edges. "My name is Akaikawa." "That is a beautiful name," said Naruko sincerely. "It is nice to meet you, Akaikawa-kun." He stared at her, as though searching for something in her face. "Why are you being nice to me?" Naruko smiled, warm and steady as a candle flame in a quiet room. "Because everyone deserves to have someone be kind to them. Especially on hard days." Akaikawa's chin trembled just slightly. His shoulders, which had been pulled all the way up to his ears, slowly began to drop. "Do you want to tell me about it?" Naruko asked softly. "You do not have to. But I am here, and I am listening, and I am not going anywhere." For the first time in what felt like a very long while, Akaikawa felt something ease inside his chest. He took a breath. And he began to talk. Naruko listened to every word. "A kind heart on the road." Naruko shook her head and refocused her thoughts. "This is not the time to daydream. I need to stay present and do what I came here to do," she reminded herself with quiet determination. She turned her attention back to the young boy. "Akaikawa, why would you think something like that?" "I am sure it cannot be the whole truth," she said gently, hoping her words might reach him. "But they never spend time with me when they get home. We never do anything together as a family," cried Akaikawa, his voice full of sadness. "May I ask you something?" said Naruko kindly. Akaikawa gave a slow nod. "How old are you?" 11? 12? she asked. Akaikawa raised an eyebrow, a little puzzled by the question. "I am 11, he said. Naruko thought carefully to herself. Akaikawa feels as though his parents are ignoring him, but the truth is they both work long hours and come home tired each evening. He most likely feels lonely because they do not have much energy left for family time after such long days. It is a very understandable feeling for a child his age. She looked into the boy's blue-gray eyes. "Akaikawa, are you absolutely sure your parents do not care about you? Could this perhaps be a misunderstanding?" she asked. Akaikawa looked back at her with uncertainty. "I do not know. What if they do not want me here?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Naruko nodded thoughtfully. "I truly believe that is not the case. Have your parents ever told you that they do not like you? Have they ever said they do not want you?" she asked. Akaikawa shook his head. "No. Never," he admitted. "Then they absolutely care about you, and I am sure they are worried about you right now," said Naruko warmly. Akaikawa nodded slowly, the truth beginning to settle in his heart. A wide smile spread across the boy's face, the kind of bright, honest smile that only a child can wear. Naruko noticed it right away. "You are right, Naruko-san. Thank you so much. I should go home," he exclaimed happily. Naruko gently ruffled his black and red hair. "I will take you home myself. This part of town is not really the right place for someone your age to be wandering alone," she said kindly. She took his hand and led him toward her motorcycle, a magnificent Honda Nia Wing. Akaikawa's eyes went wide with wonder. "That is the most amazing motorcycle I have ever seen," he said breathlessly. Naruko could not help but smile at his excitement. "Why, thank you. Now hop on. It is getting late," she said, nodding toward the golden sky as the sun began to set. A little while later, after Akaikawa guided Naruko to his home, his parents rushed outside the moment they saw him. They had been terribly worried, not knowing where their son had gone. When they realized he was safe and sound, the relief on their faces was plain to see. Naruko gently explained the misunderstanding to Akaikawa's parents. They were moved beyond words. There were tears and warm hugs, and the family held each other close. Afterward, they turned to Naruko with deep gratitude. But Naruko simply waved it off with a modest smile. She was just glad she had been able to bring a family back together before anything troubling had a chance to happen. She also explained what she had been doing in that part of town, and Akaikawa's parents were genuinely surprised. Unlike many teenagers who might spend their free afternoons with friends or simply relaxing, Naruko spent hers looking out for others. The two adults found themselves thinking that they were not speaking with a teenager at all. There was a quiet wisdom and warmth about her that felt remarkable. Naruko glanced at the clock on the wall. "It is getting late, and I think I have already stayed longer than I should have," she said, rising from the couch. The mother shook her head with a bright smile. "Nonsense, Naruko-chan. You are welcome in our home any time," she said warmly. Her husband gave a respectful bow. "You are truly one of a kind," he said. "Thank you. You are both very kind. I am only doing what I believe any good person would do. But I really must be heading home now," said Naruko. The parents walked her to the door. "Take care, Naruko-chan, and may good things always find you," said the mother. Naruko bowed respectfully and then headed to her motorcycle. She drove home through the quiet evening streets, feeling a gentle warmth in her chest. She was proud, in a quiet way, that she had been able to help. Back home. When Naruko arrived home and parked her motorcycle, she was greeted by her mother standing in the living room with a very serious expression. "Do you have any idea how late it is?" her mother exclaimed, her fiery red hair seeming to bristle with worry. "I hope you have a perfectly good explanation, young lady." "Ka-chan, I promise I was not doing anything I should not be doing. I went to the library to study," said Naruko calmly. Her mother, Kushina, crossed the room in 2 steps and pulled Naruko into a very enthusiastic hug. Naruko let out a small laugh. All right, I believe you. I am sorry for worrying so much. I just want everything to go well for you," said Kushina, pulling back with a warm smile. "I know, Ka-chan. You are always looking out for me," said Naruko with a grin. Kushina patted her daughter's shoulder. "You must be tired. Off to bed with you," she said fondly. Naruko nodded and let out a long yawn. "Good night, Ka-chan," she said, heading off to her room. She changed into her comfortable pajamas, rested her head on her pillow, and drifted off to sleep almost instantly. The next morning. The following morning, Naruko went through her usual routine and headed out with her backpack over her shoulder. I am off, she called. Have a wonderful day. Her mother replied, already getting ready for work. Kushina paused for a moment and looked at a photograph of herself with a much younger Naruko. She is always moving, always helping, Kushina murmured to herself, wondering, as she sometimes did, whether her late husband would be proud of the extraordinary young person their daughter had become. Meanwhile, Naruko was on her way to school when she nearly bumped into a small, white-haired girl carrying a paper bag of sweets. The collision was unavoidable, and the bag tumbled. When the girl looked down, her snacks were completely squashed. Oh. I am so sorry. Are you all right, Tojo-san? Asked Naruko, adjusting her helmet so she could get a better look. The small girl, Koneko, stared quietly at her ruined sweets. My candy, she said in a very calm, very flat voice. It is ruined. Naruko sighed softly. You must really love sweets, she said. Koneko gave a single, solemn nod. Naruko thought for a moment. What if I take you to a sweet shop to replace them? If we go right now, we will still have plenty of time before school, she offered. Koneko looked up at her with bright golden eyes. Why would you do that? We do not really know each other, she said simply. Naruko shrugged with a cheerful smile. I suppose I just think you would look much happier with some new sweets, and I enjoy making people happy. Besides, I know a wonderful little shop nearby that I think you would like very much, she said. Koneko studied her for a moment. You are kind, Naruko-senpai. Please take me to the store, she said, and though her voice was quiet, there was genuine gratitude in it. Naruko nodded and pulled a spare helmet from her bag, one that looked like a charming vintage aviator cap with little goggles. Koneko put it on carefully, then climbed onto the motorcycle behind Naruko and wrapped her arms around her waist. Without quite meaning to, she leaned in just slightly. She is warm, Koneko thought to herself. This feels very peaceful. She could not quite explain why, but she did not mind the feeling one bit. Before long, they arrived at a cheerful little shop called Ruru Sweets. Inside, a woman in her early 30s greeted them with an enormous smile. She had long hair pinned up in a bun, a beautiful mix of bright pink and blue-purple, and warm gray-purple eyes. She wore a sunny blue sundress and seemed to radiate joy. Her name was Hosuke, and she was someone Naruko had once helped through a very difficult time. Welcome, Naruko-chan. And who is this lovely young lady? Hosuke asked, her eyes sparkling. Both girls blushed a little. We are just classmates, said Naruko quickly. Do you have any specials today? Naruko-senpai, I would like that one, please, said Koneko, pointing at a beautiful basket overflowing with all sorts of sweets. Hosuke clasped her hands together with delight. Wonderful taste. And she calls you senpai, how absolutely sweet, she said, beaming, as she lifted the basket and Naruko paid for it. Koneko looked at Hosuke with her usual calm expression. My name is Koneko Tojo. I will be coming back, she announced. Then she turned to Naruko. Come on, Naruko-senpai, she added, taking the older girl's hand and leading her back toward the motorcycle, a small pink blush on her cheeks. Have a lovely day, you too. Koneko-chan, look after Naruko-chan. She is one of the good ones. Called Hosuke as they headed out. She seems very nice, said Koneko once they were on the road again. She really is, said Naruko. Although she does get very enthusiastic about things. You should see what the shop looks like around springtime, she added with a laugh. Koneko, riding along behind her, allowed herself a small, quiet smile that Naruko could not see. It had been a surprisingly lovely morning. When the two arrived at school together, the sight of them caused quite a stir. Koneko, who was known for keeping mostly to herself, was riding with Naruko, who had a reputation for being kind and capable. Everyone seemed surprised. Among the most astonished were two young women named Rias and Akeno, who knew Koneko well and had never seen her look quite so at ease around someone new. Was that truly Koneko-chan? Rias asked, blinking. I believe it was, said Akeno, equally amazed. She seemed almost cheerful. Meanwhile, in the student car park, Naruko and Koneko removed their helmets. Koneko handed hers back. This morning was really nice, said Koneko. It was, agreed Naruko with a warm grin. Koneko looked up at her. Naruko-senpai, could we do something together again sometime? She asked softly, a tiny blush on her cheeks. Naruko felt her own cheeks go a little warm. I would really like that. How about I walk you to class for now? She offered. Koneko nodded. Okay, Naruko-senpai, she said, and popped a large peanut butter cup into her mouth as they walked side by side toward the school entrance. Naruko laughed softly at the sight, and it was the kind of laugh that made the morning feel a little brighter for everyone nearby. Dear YouTube family. All things worth remembering take time to build, and you helped build this. For now, this is where I stop. Not forever. Just for now. Like, share, and subscribe if this meant something to you. With gratitude. 6 Path Weeb.